Hey folks, Kiltman here, Kiltman. At your services. How are you all? Hope you're doing very, very well. Now, in response to a request from Juan Boyd, who asked me to do a review of 1932's classic Island of Lost Souls, an adaptation of H.G. Wells' enormously influential classic sci-fi horror chiller thriller, Island of Dr. Moreau. I will now be forthcoming, because I do love this movie. It's been filmed several times, as we know. Don Taylor did a version in the 70s with Michael York, Burt Lancaster, and Nigel Davenport, and the great Barbara Carrera. And then, of course, Richard Stanley trying to get one off the ground and wrestled with John Frankenheimer, and a really troubled, hellish production was done in the 90s with Marlon Brando as Dr. Moreau, and it is an unmitigated disaster on every level, except for the makeup effects, which are actually pretty good. But by far the best version was way back in 1932. L.C. Kenton directed it for Paramount. You'd already had the enormous success of Dracula for Todd Browning, Frankenstein for James Whale, The Old Dark House for James Whale, and also starring Charles Laughton, who would be appearing here as a very effete, pudgy, smug, arrogant, egocentrical Dr. Moreau, who looks incredibly like the comedian Peter Kay. You watch it, he looks just like Peter Kay. In his natty white tropical suit, cracking his bullwhip for all the beast men who live on his island. It's very, very colonialistic as well, very empirical. The white man, his burden, the beast men, natives. White man with the House of Pain, oppressing and indoctrinating and destroying a culture under the pretext of creating a new culture. H.G. Wells, when he wrote this, it was combating the sort of idea of Darwinism about man's base, primal beginnings, that we evolved from apes, and that all animal life is an evolution of a former life. No godlike intervention. The only god you've got in this story is Dr. Moreau himself, like Dr. Frankenstein. Do you know what it feels like to be God? It's a paraphrasing of the original Colin Clive line from Frankenstein. Now I know what it feels like to be God. Very, very emotive stuff. And of course, this story, at the time when it came out, Darwinism and vivisection were hugely volatile components in culture and society. Pros and cons, people were on the side, people were against it, and it was a very combustible scenario to bring to cinema screens. But you had an appetite for horror. H.G. Wells was also James Whale's The Invisible Man, which H.G. Wells had written as well. But H.G. Wells did not like this version of his story, Dr. Moreau. In fact, he hated it, he derided it, and he was exceptionally pleased when it was banned. L.C. Kenton's film was banned in the UK, banned in many parts of America, banned around Europe as well. It was banned in a lot of places. Why? Because of those themes I just mentioned. Because of its explosively nasty sense of sadism, bestiality, which it has in abundance. Violence, it's a very, very violent movie. It's very sinister, it's very depraved. And for all these reasons, although horror had just hit the big time, within a couple of years, this only came out a year after Dracula and Frankenstein, all of a sudden the huge horror backlash would begin. And Island of Lost Souls is one of the ones that really brought that sudden counterpoint retaliation from the protest groups and the moral crusaders. Horror was a bad thing. You saw horror on the streets, all the veterans from the First World War, limbs blown off, haggard faces, dishevelled husks of what humanity used to be, constant reminders of man's inhumanity to his fellow man. And now you are seeing man's inhumanity towards animals and creating men out of them and being an absolute bastard to them. It is the beast in man, and people didn't have an appetite for it. The film, folks, is a classic. In case you couldn't tell from my gusto and animation already, I love this version. It's by far my favourite. I'm playing the soundtrack to the 70s version from Don Taylor, and with what's his name? Robert Rosenthal. It's not Robert Rosenthal. What is it? Lawrence Rosenthal's score. Oh, Kiltman, you were doing so well. His score to the 70s one is great. And I'm playing that because I will probably come on to reviewing that film very shortly. But I also haven't got the score to the 1932 version. So, why is it called Island of Lost Souls and not the Island of Dr. Moreau? Well, already you were having problems with H.G. Wells, who didn't like this version. So you'll see in the opening credits that it's taken from a story by H.G. Wells. It doesn't even name the actual story, which, by the way, I have here. And that is the released version of the novel to coincide with the Don Taylor version of the movie from the 70s. Now, so they kind of remove themselves from that. But I like that poetic title, The Island of Lost Souls. It is, because that is what it is. It may be Dr. Moreau's island. He's still called Dr. Moreau. They haven't changed his name. And he's still committing hellish vivisection. I mean, that's his thing. He's importing animals. He has cargo ships bringing these animals from all over the world. Wolves, hyenas, tigers, lions, bears, gorillas, all sorts of creatures, which he will then operate on, vivisect and graft, and it's not pleasant. In the 70s version, Burt Lancaster playing Dr. Moreau would be a gene splicer. But of course, when Wells wrote the book, they hadn't discovered the human gene at that stage, so he couldn't incorporate that. It had to be some horrible, abhorrent surgery and vivisection. So that is the unpleasant theme of Kenton's movie. So he gets these animals in, and the House of Pain is where he creates and grafts and manipulates the human body, the animal body, into a manimal, a humanimal, and then he unleashes them into the jungles of his own tropical island, his secluded, isolated tropical island. But he is the sayer, he is the one who commands these beastmen, as they're called, but he has to have some sense of order. These creatures are primitive, they're primal, they're bestial, but you've got Bela Lugosi in proto-wolfman makeup as well, who is the sayer of the law. The sayer of the law. This is what Moreau has come up with to organise and, completely control this race that he's created. And there's a hell of a lot of them as well. He's massively outnumbered in his beautiful, luxurious, palatial mansion. What is the law? Not to walk on all fours. Are we not men? What is the law? Not to hunt other men. Not to eat flesh. That is the law. Not to shed blood. That is the law. That's Bela Lugosi. Emoting, he's the catalyst. He's the guy in charge of the encampment of the beastmen. He looks after them. He is the sayer of the law. They may have primal instincts. They may trot around the jungle. They may spy strangers on their island, and their primal instincts may want to get the better of them. But the sayer of the law will always quote this scripture from Dr. Moreau, because they know if they break the law, it's back to the House of Pain. And man, do we hear the House of Pain. We even witness some of the deeds in there. The story revolves around a shipwreck victim, who in the book is called Edward Prendergast or something like that, but in the film he's called Edward Parker, and he's played by Richard Arlen, who's great. I like Richard Arlen. He's a brilliant actor. There's a touch of Buster Crabbe about him as well. There's a bit of Richard Gere in there as well. He's a good looking leading man, and he's already been shipwrecked and picked up by another ship at sea. But what ship is that? It's the ship that's ferrying all these animals to Dr. Moreau's mysterious island, an island off the charts. They've just got coordinates to get there. So while on board this ship, he sends a telegraph to his fiancée, his betrothed, in some other island to let her know that he's alive and he's coming back. But as he wakes up and gets better, the doctor that's treating him actually turns out to be the caretaker on Dr. Moreau's island, who's a disgraced medical student from London who, when Dr. Moreau was first outlawed and banned for an experiment on a dog which he'd done, escapes into the streets howling and shrieking. You don't see it, but Moreau does liberally divulge these details. He's driven out the country, but he takes Montgomery, who is played by, where is he? Arthur Hole. Arthur Hole takes him with him. But Montgomery, on board this ferry ship of all the animals, looks after Edward. Oh dear God. And I'm only drinking tea, you know. Although whiskey has arrived today. So, he's treated him, and he's quite friendly towards him. But when Edward, let's call him Parker, struts about this ship and he sees all these cages full of animals, and he sees the captain of the ship being horrendous to this strange dog-like man who has got a dog ear underneath his long hair, who's called Meling. Then Parker beats the captain up, but of course the captain then waits to I'll have you. And as they pull up at the docks to unload all these animals on Moreau's Island, he sees his chance, gives Parker a double tap, boom, and throws him over the side of the ship. So he lands on the docks. They pull the ladder up and off they go, leaving this poor guy there who's been shipwrecked already. He's then been beaten up and then thrown on a mysterious island full of beast men and a mad doctor. He gets to meet the doctor, who's all very kind and very convivial. But he's got an ulterior motive, hasn't he? Because he has Lota, the exotic, sultry, almost Sumatran beauty, Lota, played by Kathleen Burke. But Kathleen Burke as Lota has a bit of a secret. Moreau wants to leave these two together to see what happens. And in a voyeurist, so you've got voyeurism as well, he will watch as they converse. Lota, I want you to talk to the young man, get to know him, answer his questions, but don't mention the House of Pain, don't mention the Beastmen, don't mention this, but do as he says, get to know him. He wants them to get it on together. Why? What is Lota? Lota is not really a woman, she's a panther. She's his best success. A beautiful woman that has been grafted and vivisected and concocted from flesh and bone, contorted from a panther into a woman. And we feel sorry for all of these creatures, but for Lota especially, who has human emotions. She will cry, she will get upset, she will try to please Parker. When Parker realises that he can't get off the island because even though he thought he was going the next day, the little schooner at the jetty has been scuttled, and it's sinking. Because we all know that it's Moreau who's done it, because Moreau still has this bloody experiment he wants to perfect, get these two together and see what the offspring is. Is she capable? He talks about capable of love and human emotion, but what they really are meaning is, can they get it on, and will she conceive and give birth, and what will that be? You can see how this, in 1932, was going to be really, really troubling for a lot of audiences who suddenly cotton on to what is transpiring. Parker discovers all of this stuff is taking place. He hears howling and gibbering shrieks from another building, and he'll go up there and he'll burst in upon Dr. Moreau, who's got a scalpel and knives, and with Montgomery is operating on a living beast man who's writhing in agony, and it's truly shocking. Bit by bit, Moreau will describe exactly what he's doing, how he ended up there, what his experiments have all been, that he's some sort of bioanthropological scientist, and this is a research outpost that's going to further mankind's knowledge. All of that gubbins, it's for the betterment of the world. Although Moreau, in his very erudite, sort of very upper class, very understated sort of mannerisms, just comes across as a complete sadistic bastard, which is exactly what he is. Charles Lawton on stage in the West End had perfected how to use the bullwhip, and he uses the bullwhip in this a hell of a lot. What is the law? Whoosh! And whenever the beastmen begin to converge, whoosh! Migling, fetch some more wine, whoosh! He's really, really good with it. So already Parker is at loggerheads with Moreau, but Parker can't get off the island. Parker feels feelings for Lota, even though his woman has now found out that he is on some mysterious island, because that ferry ship, that ferry boat, has come into Hairport, and he was meant to be on it. So where is he? Make the captain answer. The authorities question him, and he goes, "Oh, he's on this island. All my duty was to put him off at the first port, but this mysterious island has no port. Give me the coordinates," as this authority says. So he has to. So his woman and this other captain go off there, find the island. They will arrive and walk through the jungle and spy all these creatures there. But they'll get to Moreau's house, and Moreau will invite them in. And then, of course, because everything's going completely pear-shaped with Lota and Parker, because unbelievably, just at the pivotal moment of hug and snog, Lota's claws have come back, her panther claws have come back. So aghast, Parker's like, "Oh, what's she's an animal as well," and he slugs Peter Kay, Dr. Moreau. And Dr. Moreau will say, "Yes, that was my best experiment." But then he takes his vengeance out on Lota. It's back to the house of pain for you, because that stubborn beast flesh always comes back. So all those other denizens out there, they've probably all been much better looking human specimens, but they've all begun to revert back to the animalistic creature that they once were, or this monstrous hybrid of several species wrapped into one contorted mass of flesh. So, but because they've now got other visitors, they've got this other captain, and they've got Parker's girlfriend, who is played by Leela Hyams, who was in several films at this stage as well. She was in Freaks, Todd Browning's Freaks, which also got banned. So she's quoted as saying, it's like the British censor is waging war on my career, because two of their movies in quick succession got banned. And Freaks and The Lost Souls have a lot in common. The human abhorrence of things that are different, things that are mutated, things that are disfigured. Of course, the freaks in the film Freaks are the heroes. They're the good guys. And the beastmen and women in And the Lost Souls are also the misbegotten, misguided good guys. They're victims, but you still fear them at the same time. So it's a clever device to twist your emotions, because they are used threateningly, as you'll see. Because even though Parker and his woman are betrothed, Moreau's got a little hidden agenda. "Oh, you must stay the night and you can leave in the morning," because obviously this other captain's got his ship just moored off the island. So, but you must sleep. You sleep with the captain there. Me and Montgomery will go to our room. Lota will go to hers. Milling, the dog man, who's got little dog ears, he'll go to his room. And your missus, there's a room set aside for her. Because Moreau's got one of his hench beastmen called Aura, who is played by Oran Hans Steinker, who is a big brute. Now, a lot of these beastmen are clearly bodybuilders or weightlifters, and they're topless and swarthy, and they've got fabulous makeup on them. Some have got claws and cloven hooves, some have got fur all over them, but they're all quite intimidating. So he says to Oran, "Woman, you like her. Go and see what happens." And Oran, in a great sequence, will scale the tree outside her room, and he'll begin to prise the bars apart. Get one out. But she'll wake up, see him, scream. Parker, her fella, will suddenly hear, come running in with a pistol. Blam, blam, blam. Oran gets scared off. In the meantime, the captain who's come to rescue them, who came with Parker's Mrs. Parker, has gone through the jungle to try to go and get help from the boat. But Oran has already followed him and leapt down from a tree and throttled him. And then takes the body back to the encampment of all the beastmen and throws the body down. "Look, I did this." So you've got Bela Lugosi saying, "But you shed blood. You broke the law. What is the law?" And all this. And then Oran, this is how the rebellion comes to fruition. Said, he, Moreau, he told me to shed blood. But that he's made the law and he's breaking the law. Oh, you can see they're all like, oh, and like these paws and feet and cloven hooves are stamping the ground. When you watch it, try to look around that group. There are some fabulous faces in there. Wally Westmore did the makeup, not Jack Pierce who did Universal. This is Paramount, remember. And his makeup there is phenomenal. A lot of the best makeups are seen in very famous publicity shots. One of a guy who's very down one side, piercing eyes, but he has like a leopard skin on the other side with this slanted eye. And it looks, absolutely ghastly. Some of the makeup is truly horrifying. But if you look, you'll see some of those in the background. Interestingly, when Bela Lugosi appeared on the set, which was down by Malibu where he filmed it all, Charles Lawton had left. So in the scenes where you see them together, that's just clever editing, camera trickery. They're not together at all. And in a couple of shots, it is just a body double for Charles Lawton or for Bela Lugosi. So they're not really there together. But for the most part, you get their confrontation. You understand it. When they realise what's been done, that some of their people have been killed, that Moreau has made them kill humans and shed blood and break the law, they turn on Moreau, obviously. And Moreau is there on the cliff top, banging the gong when it uses to summon them. Get back! You broke the law! We are not men! And all this kind of stuff. And they advance on him. If you look at some of the shots, Lawton is whipping them in the face. It's just trickery again. Because what it is, in a fast edit, the whip's been put across their face, but a frame's been removed beforehand. So it looks like it's hit them, and then you see it getting taken off. But it looks effective. A bit like my hair now. But they still advance. And whilst Parker and his girlfriend and Montgomery, who had been, the second lieutenant for Moreau, realises, I won't do this anymore, this is wrong. And Lota, they all try to escape. And so while Moreau is being pursued back to his colonial house by this ravenous mob of beastmen who drag him to the House of Pain and exact their vicious, truly startling revenge on him in a sequence which stays with you for a long time afterwards. Hairy fists smashing into these glass cases and fishing out scalpels and knives and other cruel surgical devices, whilst Charles Lawton is writhing on this operating table, and they all descend on him and begin to hack into him, and you hear his gibbering howls as well. Brilliant. He deserved nothing more, and nothing less. But in the meantime, our ragtag group are trying to escape, but Oran, the big brutish Oran, again will do another. Oh no, he doesn't do a leap from a tree. Lota realises that he's pursuing this fugitive group, and she climbs up the same tree, big branch, and leaps on him, and the two of them will tragically kill each other. She tears out Oran's throat, but he's already throttled her, and her dying breaths are into Parker's face. So Parker, his missus, and Montgomery will get into a little skiff and start rowing back to this main freighter. And the island behind is now ablaze because they've set fire to the House of Pain. All the chemicals have gone everywhere. It's gone up in flames. So as they begin to look back, Montgomery says, no, don't look back. Because it's meant to be all over. Let's forget about what happened there. And the film then ends in a really bizarre moment. As the end credits come up, it plays this sort of carnival, upbeat dance, jazzy music, which is so not what the film has been like up until that point. It's almost like Paramount are saying, shit, well, we kind of thought we'd get away with it, but we did it anyway, but now we're getting cold feet. Let's send the audience out in happy mode. Hey, it's just a film. But what a film. At 72 minutes, it is a rollicking ride. I know it's vintage, but it feels fresh. It's violent, it's vibrant. The script is dynamic. Charles Lawton is magnetically powerful. A strange character, very, very over the top, yet understated. His megalomaniacal zeal and his pure arrogance and ego are towering, and yet it's so underplayed. It's just a mark of the character actor's brilliance, absolute brilliance. Issues that I have with it. When Parker's confronted Moreau several times about what he's finding out, and yet after confrontations he'll still appear to be polite again and still think that Moreau's going to help him off the island, when quite clearly that's not going to happen. Moreau's not going to do it, under his own steam, only under duress. And when his missus and this other captain arrive there, they all sit down and have a lovely dinner. And Parker doesn't think to say to his missus, look, those things you saw out there, he created them. It's dangerous here. It's scary. This guy cannot be trusted. He doesn't give anything away. He just goes along with it. And I don't understand that at all. Likewise, in front of his human partner, he clearly has feelings for Lota. So all this other woman knows is that Lota's just another woman who's pursuing him and obviously close to her husband. So what's going on there? It's like, and he never explains, oh, no, we need to get off because it's not her fault, she's a victim as well. He never thinks to explain that, and she never even quizzes him on it. They're minor quibbles. They might sound major, but in the whole roller coaster ride, because this film is very fast paced, and as I say, every single scene has momentum, has violence, has sadism, has an issue. There's a great sequence where the captain of the animal freighter initially picks up what he's already slugged Parker and he's going to throw him over the side. Well, it's clearly a dummy that gets thrown over, but it lands on these crates that drop about 30 feet, lands on its shoulder on these crates, and then it cuts to like Parker go, on the floor. But that would have killed anyone, and it looks, you go, oh, even though it's a dummy, you go, oh my God. The victims on the table in the House of Pain, writhing in agony, they'll haunt you, they'll haunt you. The beastmen and their disfigurements will haunt you. The gibbering howls of Lawton being dragged into his own surgical empire, the House of Pain, and suffering what he's inflicted on other people. There's a great sequence as well, because the house is overrun with weird hybrid plant life, because he's experimented on plants first of all. So he's made orchids grow to huge proportions, and in a great moment he says, like, look, some of my experiments weren't always successful. Well, look around you in the fucking island. Most of them are bloody mistakes, aren't they? Even Lota, your big success story, is going to revert back to being a beast before long. But he says, like, that there, which is like this huge towering alien tree which got tendrils everywhere, because that was an experiment with asparagus. Look where it got me. Well, look where it does get him. As the beast mob descend on him, he climbs backwards up that very same asparagus tree, cracking the whip, but he can't go anywhere else, and they'll get him and they'll pick him up and hoist him off into the House of Pain. Very, very striking, emphatic, powerful, potent sequence. And the whole film is brilliantly told. Little plot elements and dialogue elements aside, where, as I said before, Parker would clearly have given the game away. I don't know why he just puts up with it for so long. But you've got the emotion of Lota. Lota, by the way, Kathleen Burke won a prize. Paramount seemed to be under the idea, look, we have got something which could be taboo breaking and troublesome for us, but we'll have the jaunty music at the end, and we'll do this big casting thing. Who wants to be the Panther Woman? So 60-odd thousand women applied for the job as the Panther Woman, and Kathleen Burke, already a model, won the part. So hey, I'm going to be a Panther Woman. And yet look what the film was that serenaded this gorgeous, beautiful, lithe, tribal looking woman. So exotic looking, and yet when her claws grow and she realises, you don't like me anymore. And he's reading a book on how to make radio calls and transmissions. What will that get you off the island? Yes, this book will help me get off the island. So she picks up the book and throws it into the pool. Why'd you do that? Because book would take you away. And it's touching. It's actually very touching, her relationship, and he clearly does fall for it as well. And he's even got this other woman. So he got this whole lots of bestiality, violence, sadism, vivisection, Darwinism. All of these things were just, it was a firebrand on a fuel dump. Boom. But the film, folks, is outstanding. I love it. I do like the 70s version, and I will cover it, but the 70s version isn't a patch on this. Charles Lawton is magnificent, and the Beastmen makeup, the setting of the island, the sets that they've built, the lighting, the chiaroscuro lighting, noirish, shadowy in some ways, very bright and avant-garde in other ways. Folks, and for you, one. This one's for you. I have been, and always shall be, Kiltman, and Island of Lost Souls deserves your attention. It's available on Blu-ray, so please, indulge. Please, take it easy. Be happy, be healthy, be Celtic. Stay away from the House of Pain. So saith the law. Are we not men? I am Kiltman, and I will see you all later. What's wrong with the Panther Woman? She's adorable, for God's sake.